Hey, happy Sunday. This is PFG Live. And I'm Spencer Webb, and I'm in southern New Hampshire, where at this time we are experiencing thunderstorms. So if I suddenly disappear, it's probably them aliens. Hey, welcome. We got Evils here reporting from Ghent, Belgium, that they have some air pressure, and it's 27 degrees and 15.1 degrees Celsius for the dew point. Josh is here reporting from Charlie X-Ray Mike Delta, a weather station buried somewhere in Canada. Winds are 010 at 5 knots, temperature 14, dew point 13. And remarks, in the past hour, something happened. Who else is here? CJ Stevens is with us. He says it's 81 degrees and sunny in East Tennessee. Welcome aboard, sir. Elevator music check. Thank you, sir. Josh Furman is here from Haverhill in the UK with 20 degrees, proper science, mostly cloudy, 2 CNC lathes running, 1 VMC, and setting up another happy Sunday. You, sir, are being productive. Test Room 2003 is with us from Oostkapelle, the Netherlands. Overcast with 20 degrees C, relative humidity 67%. Is today's standard temperature and pressure day? Because we got a lot of 20 degrees C's. Carl Tauber is here reporting 83 degrees and sunny in the People's Republic of Rhode Island. And it's anything but sunny here right now, Carl. It is pouring. Josh, our audio checker, says, check, check. Thank you very much, sir. Tuck says it's sunny and beautiful at 85 degrees Fahrenheit in the Buffalo of New York. Baka Fish joins us from Tokyo, where it is dark and hot, and he knows little else. We will not hold that against you. Dale is here. Widget Works from Edmonton, Alberta, reporting 21 degrees science, 59% relative humidity, and sunny in West Snow, Mexico. DBX just posted some glorious radar returns that look kind of scary, and I'm experiencing some of it. Steven is here with us, reporting cloudy with the chance of an HF spill. If you were in the pre-show, you know why we're talking about that. 90 Frankenstein, 58% watery, and welcome. Arthur G says 23% science, sunny, almost no clouds in central France. I would like a croissant. Thank you. Who else is here? Shaden HKW, sir, we will all rise and salute you. 90 degrees Fahrenheit and 87% relative humidity in eastern Alabama. Now, some of you are temporarily confused as to why Shaden HKW is in eastern Alabama. They're having too much fun at Windy Hill Foundry, and I look forward to talking to you guys. Did we get everybody? I think we got everybody. Welcome aboard. It is Sunday, and it is in the southern New Hampshire. It is currently 82 degrees Fahrenheit, 73% relative humidity. But there's more exciting things to report from Manchester Airport, which reports winds are 340 at 3 knots. Oh, I have to read this. Runway 35 is reporting between 6,000 variable to greater than 6,000 feet of runway visual range. Variable, how was it? Thunderstorms in the vicinity, rain, mist, broken at 4,900 in cumulonimbus, overcast at 6,500, temperature 2.1, dew point 19, altimeter 2.9er, 8.9er, and there's going to be remarks, surface visibility 2.5 miles in lightning distant in the east-southwest quadrant, and the rest is, occasional lightning in the vicinity. Thunderstorms, it's great. It's crazy. So just up the road, they're having a good time. Steven says they should stop by, not far from Phoenix City, probably. Okay, we'll hook you guys up. You're in Phoenix City. Joel L checks in with a METAR from Kilo Charlie Hotel Delta saying wind 040 at 05, gusting 10 knots. It's not exactly gusting. 10-mile visibility clear, temperature 39, dew point 14, altimeter 29 or 87. 39. Yow. Breezy Mound Casting. By the way, I made a remark on Instagram with the quip Breezy Point ? So if you're from Long Island, New York, Breezy Point is actually on Long Island. So there's actually a Breezy Point, which is why it's stuck in my head. Anyway, I hope you guys are having fun. We're here, and the last two PFG Lives we had guests, and it took a lot out of me. It was a lot of fun. Today it's just you and me. We're just talking. We're just a couple of guys talking here. The Discord is full. We have a bunch of nice people in the Discord. We got DBX, got Steven, SAT, Josh, Arthur G, Evils, Lance K, Dank, Tuck, Petroleum. I did that again. Proteum Machining, Dylan, Dale at Widgetworks, Carl Tauber down in the Rhode Island, and Bakafish in the Tokyo on the Discord. Welcome aboard. I'm far from just a guy. I'm just a guy. So I've been spending way too much time sitting in front of a computer in the last week. If I wasn't in front of a computer, I was playing Uber driver for various members of my family. Nicholas Lowe, welcome aboard. And so not a lot of shop time, but I was able to, start some machines running and do some stuff. So we're going to talk a little bit about things I learned this week. And then I had the epiphany in the last couple of weeks, which I'm going to share with you about batteries in the world of CNC, and specifically in my world of CNC. And finally, I had another epiphany regarding clutter credits. And I had to do a little research on this, and I'll share that with you. Dylan says, I'm not alone. Even had a customer write a check to Petroleum Machining once. The question is, did you catch it or did the bank catch it? That's what I want to know. That is very funny. You should see the different ways people spell kinetic in Kinetic Precision. That's kind of interesting. All right. We don't need that. So let's see. If you've been following along and you've been following on my journey of resin printing, which has been a lot of fun, and you know that I'm a unpaid shill for FormLabs just because I love their product, and I like the people too. They're really a super bunch of folks. So I have a project running in the other side of the wall here over in RF land for a customer, and we're doing some high power RF thingy. And as part of the high power RF thingy, I have to have some insulated brackets inside this magic box. Now the magic box is running at very high power, and it's also running at potentially environmentally hot temperatures. Shaden HKW says, you would be surprised how many people misspell industrial. No, actually I wouldn't. So I decided that we're going to resin print these parts, these insulators for this high power structure. And then one day, so I started thinking about this, and I started thinking about my favorite material, the tough 1500 resin, and like, yeah, that would be a good material. But then I started worrying about the temperature excursions if this thing is out in the sun, which is. Did you hear that? I don't know if you guys heard that. Somebody tell me if you heard that. That was thunder outside my window. If I disappear, by the way, yeah, Dale heard it. If I disappear, you know where to find me. In the event we lose the stream, I will restart the stream. And if you're subscribed, you'll get the notification, blah, blah, blah. But we'll hang in here. We got UPSs everywhere. Anyway, so then I looked at the FormLabs materials, and they have a couple of high temperature rated things. There's one that's specifically called a high temperature resin. I forget I think its purpose in life is to make molds for some things. And then there was another one which we looked at, which was literally alumina. So you could 3D, you could basically resin print a structure out of alumina. Then you cure it, and then you fire it, and then you have an alumina part, which is basically aluminum oxide. It's a very involved process, and you had to use a furnace to hit. Tuck says he'll just take over the stream if we lose power. You could take over the Discord for sure, but the stream is going away if we lose. Well, that's not true. We have a generator, and I think everything in the chain is going to be okay. So these alumina parts were very expensive to set up. You needed a 1700 C furnace, but it would have been cool. But that was out of the question. However, there's a resin, as you know, called Rigid 10K, and it's the stuff that they make. I've shown this a few times. This is a sample part, and it comes out white, and it's highly glass filled, and it's very rigid. And I decided this is the stuff that I want to try making these parts out of. So I bought my first liter of the Rigid 10K resin at the cost of $299 a liter. No fooling. And so far, I've only printed one part, but it is really otherworldly. So here's the part I printed. It is a rectangular prism. Literally not too exciting, except that I did put the, you probably can't read this. I did put the name. Let's see if I get the light just right. There you go. I did put the name of the material and the layer size on there. And I use these to measure the dielectric constant of the material. So I've done it for the Tough 1500 resin. Here's one. I'll just stack them there. And I've done it for the clear resin, which I haven't even removed the supports because I just like looking at it. So the Rigid 1000K, I got a question here. What did Preform say the cost of a rectangle that size was at $300 a liter? I don't remember. I'll get back to you on that. But this is, there's a few bucks here, right? Just making this thing. But that's okay. I have to make the measurement. How fire resistant is it? Can we get a video of a torch on it? Maybe. This is the supports that it was on are here. I've recovered the supports, or I should say I saved them because I want to demonstrate something with this support material. And I could put a torch on the support material, but if I bend, we're going to do it live here, folks. I haven't tested this. If I bend a piece of the Tough 1500, as you can see, it just bends. Okay, it's very bendy. If I do the same thing to a piece of this this Rigid 10K, it just snaps. It just snaps. It's literally, it feels like ceramic. And it's pretty neat. So that's the material I'm going to make these parts out of. So the first part of this process is I measure the dielectric constant, and then inside my mechanical model for this thing, I design my little support structures, and then I go ahead and I print them on the printer. Take care, Shaden HKW. Heading over to the Winn-Dixie for crawdads. Oh, man. Could you send some crawdads this way? I would love some crawdads. So this material has promise for applications like that. And its very high glass content gives me hope for two things. Number one, the ability to handle high temperatures without getting soft, without sagging, et cetera, that I'm very sure of. And also, it's probably a low loss material because of the high glass content. We'll see. I think we're good, but I'm enjoying playing with it. And the really cool thing about the printer and the system is that you can change. We measured it. I think we did it. I did a live once randomly. No, it was just on the Discord server. And I changed out from one resin to another resin completely. And I could change it out in 7 minutes. So it's not horrible to change out the resins. And it's actually quite well behaved. So I'm very excited to try this material. And it's very weird to handle because it feels like a piece of ceramic from its weight. And yeah, we'll see what happens. And I might take a torch to the base material and see how it behaves. It's not going to behave like a ceramic. It's going to be a little different because it does have a binder, but I think it's going to be, mighty interesting. And I'm looking for other applications for that material because I think it would be a great material for doing molds. It reminds me of like plaster in a plaster mold, that type of thing. So I think we can print some molds. Depending on how much heat it could take, we could probably do some metal molds. So Steven says, make a rocket nozzle and I'll put it in a motor for you. I'll tell you what, if you send me a drawing for the rocket nozzle, okay, as long as it's not the size of my head, we will price it out and I can print it for you and go fire it. Let's see what happens. I think that'd be really neat. And frankly, I think the guys at FormLabs would love to see that. So if you want to do a joint venture here and make a rocket nozzle, I would be happy to play that game. That sounds like fun. This is why we do this. So we'll give that a shot. So I've upped my resin palette from gray resin, baby's first resin, which is also, by the way, a little crunchy, a little fragile, to the clear, the Tough 1500, which is really my most important resin because I make the NOS and I make, now, we're going to talk about this, I make the taper collet out of it. And now this new resin, which is super special, but pretty neat. So I'm looking forward to doing more with it. So yeah, as we go along here, by the way, if you guys have comments, questions, snide remarks, feel free to drop it into chat, and we will respond in kind. I'm gonna have a sip of tea. The radar, I had the radar up on my phone, says that the storm is moving off a little bit. No, it's just a small break. We're gonna experience this all through the next couple hours. All right. So, Proteum says, lost power completely twice on Friday due to a storm. Dude, actively looking to add a LTE backup for the internet. That's a good idea. I'm more worried about your machines because I know you actually have real work going on there, and you're trying to keep machines moving. They were all off the second time, thankfully. Yeah. Oh, I had a power outage earlier this week. So I had parts running on the grinder, and as you know, my grinding cycles, I try to get 1 hour cycles. I think that's a pretty good number. So I could set the grinder up, let it run, and then be off doing something else. Sure enough, we had a little power blip, and I checked my camera, which is pointing at the grinder, and the grinder had stopped, and I was like, oh no, this is not going to be good, because it could have been very bad. But actually it wasn't bad. So the grinder was in a roughing cycle, so it wasn't anywhere where it was going to ruin the part. And it stopped. I think it stopped off the part, but it looked completely benign. And since everything had absolute positioning, I was able to re-reference the grinder and literally just start the program from the beginning. So it would cut air for a little bit. It finished up just fine, and it was great. So we lucked out on that one. Funny, we're talking about batteries and backups because that's what I want to talk about. In each one of my 3 CNC machines, and no doubt in all of your CNC machines, there are batteries. And the purpose of these batteries is really to keep up the memory of the machine, because CNC machines were designed back in the day before flash memory existed. So the only way to have a bunch of memory that was going to stay there was either a punched paper tape, and for some reason you guys don't want to do that, or a magnetic memory, or loaded from disk, magnetic disk. There's still a bunch of floppies out there. But for the parameters of the control, almost always it was a battery backed up memory, at least in the last 25 years, 30 years, maybe more. And it's no different in the machines that are in my shop. So I have 3 machines, 3 CNC machines. I have a Haas TL1. I have the grinder, the Okamoto grinder with a Fanuc control, and I have the Sharp VMC with a Fanuc control. And one of the reasons I got the Fanuc control on the grinder is because I spoke enough Fanuc that I was comfortable with it. Well, some number of years ago, right around 2007, no, that's not it, 2015, right around 2015, I had the TL1 die on me. I came in, fired it up, and I got a weird error message on the screen. And I'm like, ugh, what happened? So I tried A, and I tried B, and I tried C, and finally I went to the wisdom of the internet and figured out that my battery died. Now, this is when I was on Practical Machinist forum, and I know some of you out there also were on Practical Machinist forum. In fact, that's where I first met one Adam Booth, whose shirt I'm wearing today. And he started his famous thread called My Shop, which went to something like over 12,000 replies, and eventually ended up in him starting his YouTube channel, the rest being history. So I'm on Practical Machinist, and somebody suggested the battery died, and then I did some research, and it turned out that there is an alarm for low battery. Did I ever get an alarm for low battery? I did not. So let's stop for a second and talk a little bit about batteries. There are primary cells and there are rechargeable cells. So if you go and you buy AA batteries at the store and you stick it in your device, that is a primary cell. It's not a rechargeable battery. Up until relatively recently, that battery was going to be an alkaline battery. Now you can get lithium batteries, and people don't give it much of a thought. But a long time ago, not that long ago, lithium batteries were very special, and there were no AA lithium batteries. If you were using a lithium battery, it was a super special cell. So sure enough, the Haas had a lithium battery, except it was soldered to the motherboard. And that battery died. Well, the voltage of a battery is the only thing you can really measure. And there are some very, very... Stephen says NiCad batteries were very common. And NiCads were, when I was growing up, if you had a rechargeable battery, it was a NiCad battery. And they had their own problems. I learned probably by the age of 14, I learned how to charge NiCad batteries, how to high current charge them to get rid of memory. I mean, this is what you did. But if I hand you a battery and I said, please tell me the state of charge of this battery, what would you do? This is a little thought experiment. You would measure the voltage of the battery. You might even put the battery under load and measure the voltage of the battery. Evils says, aren't they still the best type to have soldered on a board because they don't leak? Not that I endorse soldered batteries or having a battery back configuration. First of all, I'm not exactly sure which type you're talking about as being the best type. If you talk about lithium batteries generally don't leak. They have their own issues. But a primary lithium battery is not a leaker. Steve says NiCad is super poisonous. Yeah, it's not good for the environment. In fact, I won't try to get super detailed, but there are places in the world where nickel cadmium batteries were being manufactured that just got completely polluted, horribly polluted because of the nature of the chemistry. But I digress. Let's go back to me handing you a battery. So it's very hard to determine the state of charge of a battery. These days, there are battery packs that have current sensors and integrators in circuitry. So they literally watch how much current is leaving the battery, and it figures out between that and temperature and maybe some voltage information that figures out how much charge is left in the battery. I have a box on wheels that has 6,000 pounds of batteries, and it seems to know exactly how much is left in the batteries, and it's using that technique. Protium says the brothers are all AA's. Very thankful for that. But keep in mind, the only reason they can get away with that is because of AA lithium batteries. I have a story about AA lithium batteries. Lunchman84 says, I put a lithium 9-volt for fire alarm in your probe in hopes of minimizing the risk of leaking and longevity. That's okay. Do check with the manufacturer. So if you're sufficiently nerdy, plain Jane AA's, not lithiums. Okay, Protium. So if you're sufficiently nerdy, I want you to go to the store and buy some lithium AA batteries and buy some alkaline AA batteries and put them on your bench, go have lunch, come back, and measure the voltage on both of them. You will find that the voltage of the open circuit voltage of a lithium AA battery is in the vicinity of 1.8 volts. And an alkaline battery is in the vicinity of 1.5 volts. So you just have to be careful in interchanging the chemistries to make sure that the manufacturer is okay with that. Yeah, we're diving into the chemistry of batteries here. That's why I love you guys. So let me give you a little bit of history. When I was in the industry of surveillance electronics, we designed things for law enforcement and intelligence gathering. I ended up being the battery guy. Okay, because if I'm the antenna guy, what more logical thing could I end up doing than also be the battery guy? So batteries were a real problem. And we took notice that Eveready was about to come out with the L91. Well, the L91 was the lithium AA battery. And we're all like, holy cow, that would be really useful. And there's a couple of reasons it would be useful. The biggest of which is that you can pull higher currents out of a lithium battery. It had a lower internal resistance. So if you had a pulse transmitter, for example, you could pull a lot more out of the lithium than you could the alkaline. So I was in the middle of designing a device, which I will not describe in great detail, but it used a AA battery, and if I could stick a AA lithium in it, I was going to be a happy camper. So the first Everready L91 lithium batteries I got my hands on, they were 20 thousandths of an inch in diameter, too big. Not too big, but bigger than AA batteries. So if you had a device, like a consumer device, that took a AA battery, the AA lithium might not fit. And this was an early problem with the L91s. So I had to, in the device I was designing, I designed for the L91 because it had that little extra diameter to it. Later, like today, if you go into Home Depot and you buy yourself a lithium AA battery, that problem is solved. The diameters are fine. But the very first Everready L91s, which were game changers, had a problem. The second thing is, if you while you're standing in Home Depot, look at the rack at all the lithium batteries, which are typically button cells. Those are lithium batteries. They look like they're all 3-volt batteries, yet this AA battery is a nominally 1.5 volt. I already told you it's closer to 1.8 volts battery. Well, two things should jump into your head. Number one is, wait a minute. If the button batteries are a single cell and they're 3 volts, how could this battery be a single cell and be 1.8 volts? And the answer is some really magnificent chemistry. So that's what Everready did back when the L91 came out. Steven says lithium also has a bad problem of going dead without warning. We're getting back to that part of the story. Don't worry. Battery indicators don't. Lithium batteries, yeah, right. Okay, so you're on track here. So the L91 was a pretty special battery, and that's what made it possible to come out with this AA sized lithium, was this new chemistry, which I believe Everready was the champion for. But I digress. So we're back to my dead Haas lathe. So I have a TL1 sitting there and it's dead. So I open it up and I go to the motherboard, and sure enough, they had a soldered to the motherboard lithium battery. They had a low battery alarm, which didn't work. And my voltmeter told me that battery was dead as a doornail. So to solve this problem, I did a couple of things. First thing, of course, I did is I called. Well, I got on the intertubes and I started asking questions, and I ended up calling Haas, and they said, "Oh yeah, we could send somebody out there. It's going to be a while, blah blah blah." And I said to myself, "Why don't I just replace the battery?" And I proceeded to do that. So I took I don't have one handy. I took a Type 123 battery, which you're very familiar with. Same chemistry, same voltage as the battery that was on the board, which I think was a Tadrian. And I soldered wires to my battery, and I soldered it into the board. And lo and behold, I was able to recover the machine. I don't remember the exact details, but I think I was able to reload my parameters from a USB stick. But long story short, I kind of got things back up and running. But I called up Haas and I said, "Look, I want you guys to come out and fix it." They came out and they brought a motherboard, right? Because this was soldered into the motherboard. So the guy wasn't going to do this in the field. So he brings a motherboard out. He swaps the motherboard. I might have gotten this out of order. That might have happened first. But he swaps the motherboard and it was dead as a doornail. And then we find out that the battery on the motherboard that he brought from the HFO was dead as a doornail. So he took it back. He was there for 2 days. Long story. Don't worry. Haas Haas stood behind their product, and they said, look, you're not paying for this. And I said, thank you very much. And my battery went back onto my motherboard. They got it up and running, and we were back in business. At which time, I did a post to Practical Machinist. And I said, anyway, this is a quote. By the way, the date on this post is March 12th, 2015. I said, anyway, it's case closed for this particular event, but you can bet your life that I will be installing a better battery and battery monitoring solution of my own design within the next year. Anyone interested in one? I was marketing it already. And actually, one of my neighbors up in Hillsboro said his username was Milland. And he said, I think having a well-designed replacement or add-on would be of interest to both lathe and mill owners. Okay, so that was dated March 12th, 2015. I started designing my battery board. And of course, I was doing it slowly because it was a lower priority now. And on February 23rd, 2016, so roughly less than a year, I posted the following. Well, it looks like Haas came out with a battery replacement kit, which does exactly what I described was needed. Now, did I have anything to do with Haas coming out with that battery kit? No idea. But you know what I did? I wrote the check and I said, give me one of those. So I got it as soon as it came out. You see a picture of it on your screen. It's in the thumbnail. And I installed it on the machine. And I have one right here. And what it is, it's very simple. It's battery holders for 2 batteries. These can be type 123 batteries or type, I can't remember the other type, but basically 2 lithium batteries. And on the board, there are 2 diodes. Okay. And these are, without knowing, I know they're Schottky diodes. And it combines the 2 batteries into one output minus a teeny bit of voltage on the order of 0.3 volts. And off it goes to the motherboard. So they came out with that kit, and they came out with instructions with how to remove the battery from the motherboard, something I was already good at, how to install the kit, where to install the kit, because they included Velcro on the back so you could stick it somewhere. And I did all that. And my Haas TL1 was not only back up and running, but it was back up and running with this backup system. Now, one of the beauties of this backup system is that you could take out one of the batteries, replace it, take out the other battery and replace it, and you probably will not lose voltage going to your memory. Although it's still recommended that you do it with the power on. Also, you get twice the life out of the battery because you have 2 of them and they are diode combined. Okay, you cannot take 2 batteries and just put them in parallel. By the way, this is a bad thing. I'm speaking professionally as the former battery guy. So this is a really cool thing. I think I spent $100 and something on it back in 2016-ish. And I think I just bought this one for not much different. I think it was a little cheaper, actually. And that was, I never went to Haas and said, hey, did you get the idea from me? I don't care. I think it's what the market needed. And, smart people think about the same thing all the time. And I'm just glad they did it because they absolutely needed it. What does that have to do with my other machines? Well, the grinder, I think I mentioned this before, the grinder's battery is 4 D cells, which is really impressive. But not only is it 4 D cells, regular old D cells, but it's in a really nice, accessible from the outside, container. So with a screwdriver, you could pop the lid off, out comes 4 D cells, in goes 4 D cells, and then you're back on the air. Super easy to maintain, super easy to take care of. That's on the Fanuc control on the Okamoto. I attribute this, by the way, to Okamoto. I don't think, well, I'm not 100% sure. However, on my 2009 Sharp SV2412S vertical machining center, the Fanuc control had a weird battery, and you would open up the screen and the buttons and everything. You'd take a couple of screws out, and it swings open, and then on the board right behind the keyboard, there was a plastic structure that took the battery, which I'm showing you on the screen, but also was in the thumbnail, and it is unique. It is a thing that goes into a housing and clicks in, and it has a fairly standard connector. I do not know the name of these connectors, but you've seen these everywhere. This happens to be a 3-pin connector. It has some play in the housing, okay, and it has a snap action on the housing, and it fits in there, and it's great. Problem: this is a unique battery. It costs about $25, maybe $30 right now. You're supposed to replace it every year, and the price has just been going up. So I opened up one of these Fanuc batteries, and guess what I found? A bog standard lithium cell. Oh my, Protium just posted a picture. He says, speaking of bad times when batteries go bad, when was that? So the battery went bad and the machine crashed in a not so nice way? Is that what I'm seeing? Not good. Oh, that was on your first machine 6 or 7 years ago. Yeah. Don't neglect these batteries. These are pretty important. Annual maintenance for sure. So I took apart this battery pack, which of course doesn't want to be taken apart. This isn't the one. I have another one. A bog standard battery is in there. So here's what I'm going to do. This is my plan. I'm going to open one of these up carefully. I'm going to attach a pair of wires that comes out of this very custom, very bespoke battery holder. And that pair of wires is going to look a whole lot like this pair of wires going to this Haas battery kit. Now, there's no reason that this shouldn't work awesomely well. And then I'm going to have a non-proprietary battery on my Fanuc. I'm going to have the dual battery solution, which is really nice for both redundancy and not losing your memory when you go to change it, even though you're supposed to do it power on, which is the right way to do it. And then I only have, one kind of battery to stock, these either type 123 or the other one, which I don't remember the name of, which, by the way, are identical for all practical purposes. So that's the plan. I have about 3 or 4 or 5 of these things that I kept after they were removed from service. I'm talking about the Fanuc bespoke battery packs, because I had this idea all along, like, I'm not throwing that out. that looks like a connector I need. So that's what's coming. I am going to, have a pair of wires coming out there. They even put a hole on the back for my wires to come out so nicely. And I know for sure that in the back of the Fanuc control on that machine, there's plenty of room for me to attach the Velcro to put the Haas battery board. So if this sounds like a commercial for the Haas battery board, hashtag not sponsored. It's a pretty good recommendation. So here I'm going to show you the number for this battery pack. If you want to join in on the fun, there it is, 93-32-4307. And this one has a date on it, 7/24. That's good. And we're ready to go. When you buy this, by the way, it does not come with batteries. So you'll need a couple of type 123 lithiums, or the other one, which I don't remember the name of. It's in their documentation. Don't let the batteries die. Do your annual maintenance on the batteries. We we put a date. We put a date on the outside of the machine with when the battery was last changed, and you should not let it go more than a year. Now, there are many other machines that have different battery setups, and none of this may apply to you. If you don't use those little Type 123 batteries or a 3-volt lithium, this might not apply to you. Dale says, also note that the batteries are being consumed when the power is off. So if you leave a machine off for a long period of time, you risk them going dead much faster than you may expect. Dale at WidgetWorks is correct. This is what happened to my TL1. Because I don't have the machine up every day running, and it was probably off for a couple of weeks, the so-called low battery alarm was never going to work, because battery voltage is not a good indicator of charge, and the battery voltage is the only thing that they could be reading on the motherboard, at least in that generation of motherboard. So the voltage just dropped like a rock sometime while it was off, and when I went to turn the machine on, there was no way it's coming back. Also, because it was not throwing a low battery alarm, it was a red herring. It was throwing 3 other alarms, and it took a while to figure out that it was a battery problem. So if you're curious to read the story from way back then about my recovering my TL1, I put a link in the show notes on YouTube. Also, it's in the PFG.Live discussion channel of the Discord, and you can go read the original thread. That's one thing Practical Machinist does really well. Everything's still there. Go read the original thread and see how that transpired. My buddy Adam, Adam number 17, MHM Machining, he has I think it's a Mori. I don't remember what machine it is, but it has like 5 backup batteries in a little array. It's very interesting, very different. And we've talked a lot about backup batteries. So here's the takeaway. Number 1, maintain your batteries on your CNC machines once a year. New battery, okay? Number 2, take a look at this Haas battery board. I think it's applicable to many non-Haas machines, as I am about to demonstrate and will report back. Number 3, a voltage measurement does not tell you anything about the state of charge of the battery. Full stop. Okay? It's temperature dependent. It's chemistry dependent. You can measure voltage all day long, and you don't know what the state of charge of the battery is. So that's the battery story. Stay tuned. It opens up a new little mini project, which I hope to get done sometime in the next few weeks, so I can stop worrying about it, because my Sharp is due for a battery change, and I want this to be the battery change. Yeah, Proteum says voltage measurement means nothing. See probe batteries. So the probes use these small lithium cells also. It's the same category of battery. And I'm glad you're hearing this message, because if you have a probe and you measure the voltage on the probe batteries and you think you're okay, you're not okay. Just they're not that expensive. Just toss them. Okay? Once a year minimum, just toss them. Oh, interesting. So just as a public service, I will repeat this. Proteum says, be wary of fake SAFTs for probes. So there are fake batteries out there. Indeed. And just, use caution. I like buying stuff that I'm worried about. Oh, here we go. Yeah, I was thinking of you, Quentin. Quentin is putting in a new EDM machine, and when I say putting into his garage, but not quite yet. A story for another day. But he found a Jagunda, it looks like a lead acid battery. Yeah, I can't quite tell, but a big backup battery, 27 ampere hour, 12 volt battery in the base of his EDM. And it's unclear right now if that's just for backup. He thinks it's like a built-in UPS for the computer. So different animal. Quentin, do you also have some other little memory battery that looks like what we've been talking about? Is that also in there, or is this the only battery you've found so far? Haven't found any. So they did it differently. They put a big lead acid battery in there. So lithiums are nice because they have a great shelf life. You could take a lithium and put it on the shelf, come back 6 months later, and it's just like you left it. If you take a nickel cadmium battery and you charge it all up and make it all happy and put it on the shelf and come back in 6 months, you have a dead battery. And that's called self-discharge. And that's one of the miracles of modern lithium batteries is the super low self-discharge rate. So that's my story on the batteries. Finally, I want to talk a little bit about a topic that in February of this year, of 2024, we appear to have invented. So I did a PFG.Live in which we talked about mental money, in which I suggested that you look at stuff in your shop in terms of floor space, and mentally you have to pay yourself. Carl gives us a tidbit here. He says, chemistry note, battery voltage is the logarithm of the ratio of the amounts of reactants. So it's a very weak indicator of something which is only indirectly what your battery charge is. Thank you, Carl. Carl understands what he's talking about. So as a result of the February 11th PFG.Live, I think in the after show, we coined the phrase clutter credits. And frankly, I don't remember who came up with it. And if you guys do remember, let's give them credit. So we came up with the idea of a clutter credit. A clutter credit is a 2 by 2 foot piece of shop floor. Okay. And you have to pay yourself $2 a month for what is occupying that 2 by 2 foot piece of shop floor. And that came out of the math from how much it costs to rent shop space. And once you start doing that and you start walking around your shop and you look at that big box of stuff and you say, okay, that's about 4 by 4. That's 4 clutter credits. That's $8 a month. I am paying $8 a month to have that box of stuff there. And all of a sudden your thinking can change and you can start to say, wait a minute, it's not worth $8 a month to me. And those of us that have started using this thought process have started cleaning up and figuring out what we can get rid of. I posted a picture yesterday. We had a shed in the yard that had stuff in it. We actually had 3 sheds, a big one, a middle one, and a little one. The middle one had stuff in it. And it was a plastic shed from Rubbermaid, and it had warped, and the doors were not fitting right, sticking right. So the thing was not pleasant. And finally, I opened it up, and I looked at what was in there, and I said, is this worth keeping? And the answer came back, shocking to me, no. So I literally filled the truck with the contents of the shed plus the shed and took it to the dump. And it was a major success. However, I thought about that and I said, I'm giving myself, brownie points for having cleared that shed out, but that shed was more than just square footage. That shed was cubic footage. And then I started thinking about my shop, and I have a pallet rack. And I decided, this was the epiphany, I decided that we have to account for volume in addition to floor space. So I propose a cubic clutter credit, which has a really good abbreviation, a CCC, which is 2 feet by 2 feet by 2 feet. And we're going to leave the number at $2 a month. So if you look at a box on your floor that's 2 feet by 2 feet by 2 feet, you're paying $2 a month for that box. However, here's what's new. If you have a stack of those boxes, let's say they're 4 high, you're now paying $8 a month because that volume still matters, and it's still clutter, and it's still occupying space in your shop, and it's still reducing your efficiency. So the cubic clutter credit, yeah, a good old clutter cube. Yeah. This is like Minecraft for shop owners. Except the object is to get rid of it or mine it, right? It's just like Minecraft. You can smash the block and then you maybe get some good stuff out of it and then move on. So your homework between now and next week, I want everybody to report on this, is to go look at your shop and report back on how many cubic clutter credits you have reduced or how many cubic clutter credits you've observed. And you look at your shop and say, well, holy cow, I've got $500 worth of cubic clutter credits that needs addressing. And maybe some of it you keep. There are some there's some volumes of cubic clutter credits that you want to keep. It's worth $2 a month to keep that there. That machine down there is making its cubic clutter credits every month. No problem. But you're going to find some things that you cannot justify. Dale says, from WidgetWorks, he's going the other way and expanding the shop instead. So he's using a loophole, which is if he expands the shop but doesn't put anything in it, he doesn't have any penalty according to cubic clutter credits, right? Right, Dale? That's awesome. So let's start looking at volume and let's start reducing the volume. Tucker suddenly says, anybody interested in buying some stuff? So I have a picture. Let's see if I can find this picture. Actually, I took this today. I posted it to Instagram because I packed up some stuff for shipping, and doesn't it look like cubic clutter credits? I have to calculate. I think that might be 1/8. Each one of those is 1/8 of a cubic clutter credit. So it's 3/8 on your screen right now of cubic clutter credits. Anyway, there you go. So report next week on your achievements in cubic clutter credits, and let's see how that works as a mental tool for getting clutter down in the shop. And I will tell you, as a relatively recent owner of a truck, loading that sucker up, hauling it to the dump, and heaving it off the side is very fun and rewarding. So, and it makes room for other toys. All right. So if you guys have questions, comments, here we go. RC Diesel RC, we'll just call you RC Diesel, says that Pearson has talked about volume in a shop space. Yeah. Well, I predict that Pearson will start using cubic clutter credits. You watch. And I will endorse that. Absolutely. By way of a commercial, if you need a flat thing, head over to PFG.Stones.com. Oh, by the way, you know how I have all these cute shortcuts to get to various places in the website, PFG.GG, for example, for the PFG Stones, NOS.GG for the noses, BAL.GG for the balancing stand, and RIN.GG. See what I did there? For the balancing rings. Oh, Dale says, just make sure you double check with the wife before you toss anything that could be her clutter. Yes, dear. So something happened on the internet. A good thing. Browsers have started to assume secure connections. So if you type something in the name of a website, right? If you go to CNN.com or if you go to whatever, it is going to assume you want a secure connection, and it's going to go to https://cnn.com or whatever. That's great. Except if you went to PFG.GG, because you just typed that into your browser, and it tried to go to https://pfg.gg, it broke. And somebody reported this to me a couple of weeks ago. It should have broken. And the reason is that I use a service called Hover, which I like a lot, by the way. And Hover is my registrar. So the pfg.gg comes into Hover, and Hover redirects it. But it can't receive the connection securely because it is not providing an SSL certificate for pfg.gg. So I did a bunch of changes so that it's not broken anymore. But now all my cute little shortcuts end up at my homepage because reasons, and don't make me try to explain the whole thing. However, on the homepage, I put a bunch of these red meatballs with the shortcuts. So I'm going to use the wetware in the user's brain that says, oh, I really want to go there, and click the next one, and then it'll take them there. So things changed in the website and stuff, but it's still working. So things like you see on your screen here, PFG.Live, that was broken also. It is no longer broken. So we fixed a bunch of stuff, and it's working a teeny bit different, but they're all working now, which results in my plea. If you ever have a link associated with my stuff and it's broken, please tell me. We will fix it and make it better than before. We have one more commercial. I made balancing stands. Now, if you've been following, I improved the taper collet on the balancing stand, and now they are resin printed in Tough 1500. Now, why is that important and useful? Well, they're stronger, they're more accurate, and they're better than the old ones. And I love making improvements. And by the way, this is P1. You could see if you're watching the video. This did last 15 minutes, by the way, literally, and I had to change it. But they're gorgeous. All the new balancing stands are going out with the new taper collet. And also, every customer of the old taper collets got an email that said, I'm giving you one for free. Pay the postage and I'll take care of the rest. So if you are listening to my voice and you say, hey, I bought a BS8 with the old collet, taper collet, and you did not get an email from me, you should have. Let me know. We'll take care of you. No cost, pay the postage, and we'll take care of you. So this was appropriate for resin printing because we cared about things at a very smaller level of detail than in the superstructure, and it kind of made sense. And we did some tests. The ability to print direct to build plate was part of this whole thing. You heard that developing over time. The flexible build plate that lets us print a whole bunch of them. It freaked out. It freaked out Dale because it looked like. Let's see if I could find it. It looked like a scene from Alien, which I haven't watched yet. Yes, DBX. I know. I'm working on it. Let's see if I could find it. I wasn't prepared to show this. Oh, here they are. I found it. So there's the batch, but the really scary picture was this, and I'll find out why it's scary when I finish watching Aliens or Alien. but they come out perfect, and they're really magnificent. So if you need a balancing stand, come pick yourself up a balancing stand. Go to bal.gg and learn all about the BS8 balancing stand. And with that, I'm going to let you guys go have the rest of your Sunday. Thanks for being here. Don't forget, I know somebody's going to remind me, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment on the YouTube for all the usual reasons. If you have any questions that you were unable to get in here, you could ask me on the Discord server or head over to kineticprecision.com, hit the contact button, and send me a message. So have a great day. I remind you that we prefer that you get flat and stay flat, and we'll see you guys next week. Take care.